The two most important things that you need to know to succeed as an insurance agent is learning how to open your sales calls effectively, as well as how to close your sales calls effectively. What we're going to talk about in this video is exactly that. We're going to listen to real life top producers at my agency, the Dig Agency, where you're going to listen to their real life sales calls to real life prospects. And then I'm going to teach you what they are saying and why, so you can better understand how to improve your opening and improve your closing, so you improve your sales efforts overall. So let's jump right in.
Hey, Andre, this is Juan Nunez with the Dig Agency, just calling you back with the final expense price quote that you're...
Now, notice right away, Juan doesn't say, hey, is this Andre? Juan jumps right in and addresses himself as who he is calling and gets right into the script. He also mentioned the language that is on the actual lead. So our leads actually say, request a final expense quote, or sometimes they say a life insurance quote. We alter the script depending on what the lead actually says. And you want to match what your language is on the opening script with what the lead actually says. Also notice that Juan's tonality is upbeat, but not over the top, and neither is it mundane and boring. There is a pacing to it. There's an energy to it, enough to keep the person interested and engaged. Now we're about to experience an objection, so let's listen to that.
Requested on Facebook. You put down zip code 90008 to get the information. Is that correct?
Now, before we get to the objection, I want to note this as well. You're hearing how Juan is confirming the zip code provided by the client. The reason he does this is because by asking questions in a sales scenario, you maintain or regain your control. And as a salesperson, you always want to be in control of the sales call, because if you're not, then the client leads the presentation and you're likely to get off track and not make the sale. So pro tip, if you're ever off track of a sales presentation because the client typically is asking questions, answer those questions and then ask a question yourself. And actually, this is the objection and the rebuttal where this theory is demonstrated, and you'll see how well it works.
I'm sorry. Now, what is this regarding?
As for the final expense life insurance, so the programs to help your family cover the expenses whenever you die for like a burial or a cremation.
Right.
And
Okay.
90008 was the zip code you said to send the information to. Was that correct?
And is that correct? So then now he is answering the question. Juan is asking the question and has now resumed control of the presentation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So now let's move to the second opener here. The moral of the story here is that as soon as your client answers, no matter what it is that you're selling, get right into your script. Don't ask some opening questions that bore everybody and loses control, like, how's your day doing? May I speak to Mrs. Jones? Assume it's Mrs. Jones. Don't ask them how your day is doing, because you really don't care, let's face it. And get right to the point, get right into the script, and conclude that script with a question. And any kind of objection that you hear, like, what is this about? Answer the objection briefly, then get back on script by asking a question. So now let's move over to Marcus and listen to his opener as another example.
Hey, Kim, this is Marcus. I was calling you here about the price quote you requested on Facebook for the final expenses.
Yes, how much was it?
Boom. So Marcus is right into the script. Notice he's upbeat, but he's not over the top, nor is he boring, and he's not too fast either with what he's saying. Notice right away, before Marcus can really get into the script, the prospect attempts to take over by saying, how much is this gonna run? So let's listen to what Marcus says in rebuttal.
Yep. I just had to ask you one question to verify. It's just, how old are you? And I have that quote ready right now.
So one of the things that we teach our agents is to answer that question in a roundabout way by saying, yes, I just got one question to ask you, and then I'll get you that quote you wanted. What we found out, at least in the final expense niche, is that by using the terminology, hey, we're going to get you that quote, I'm calling you back about the quote, let's get you that quote, even though it's going to take us a little time to develop the underwriting perspective of the client, by saying that, that helps keep the client interested and engaged. Whereas if you try to avoid it, it's obvious to the client and they feel like you're trying to get them into a sales presentation versus directly addressing, let's get you your quote. And they tend to be a little bit more withdrawn or disengaged.
59.
All right. So for you,
Mm-hmm.
and then no smoking, right?
No smoking.
So, and we go right into it. And then, but what will happen is we start gathering some information to satisfy some of that concerns, questions of the client, and then we roll back to the presentation to build some value, to get some questions answered, etc. So again, moral of the story here on at least with the final expense side of the things, you're going to hear a lot of give me a quote, give me a quote. Go ahead and rebuttal it and say, hey, it's exactly what I'm here to do. I have one question. I'm going to give you that quote that you requested. How old are you? Do you smoke? Collect some health information. And then if you're using our script, at least you can circle back and maybe ask some questions that you had missed. But one of the things we teach is to be direct and to the point. We actually cut our script in half about a year ago and closed the same percentage, but got to the close in 15 minutes instead of 25 to 30 minutes. So get to the point, be on the phone, address the person's concerns, and you'll be surprised at how well it works. Now we're going to switch gears and listen to the close, give you some examples on how closing works. And again, the close, if you're brand new, is after you've done the presentation, you offer the pricing, and then you ask them to choose which one works better for you. Now, one of the things I want to definitely emphasize here before we listen to the close, I've listened to hundreds of closing calls. I've closed thousands of times myself personally, and I think the number one thing about closing effectively is you have to have the trust and rapport of the client. You can say things and learn things to help finagle your way to a close, but the truth is if the client doesn't believe you or trust you to some degree, a high enough degree to buy, then it doesn't matter what you're going to say. You're probably not going to sell it anyway. Now, with that said, you can develop trust, you can develop rapport, and you're still going to get some objections at the end. So in a sense, what you have to presume with listening to these examples, both of our top producers have done a good job developing trust and rapport. And then you can see how an effective rebuttal sounds to the objection of let me think about it, talk to the kids, or whatever it's going to end up being, because they've built that groundwork of trust and rapport. So please don't dismiss this. This is the binding glue that puts it all together so that you can see success out of your objection rebuttals. But without further ado, let's go ahead and listen to the first closing objection rebuttal script.
So I got three options here for you, and then after I give them to you, we can check with the insurance company and see what they got to say about it. All right?
All right.
All right. First one's going to cover you for $6,000. $6,061.51 per month.
$61.51 a month.
Yes, sir. Next one's going to cover you for $5,000 is $51.25.
Uh-huh.
And the last one's $4,000 for $41 even.
So we like using the 3 option close, the good, better, best. In this case, it's best, better, good. Had to redo that backwards. 3 options keeps the choice simple. I don't like doing more than that because then it's too much to choose from, and complexity adds hesitancy, and hesitancy means they won't buy today.
Okay.
Out of those 3, which one should we check on?
So this is the closing statement. Out of these 3 options, which one should we check on? This is a soft close. I historically like to use, out of these 3 options, which one should we start with? But you may want to use which one can we check on in order to softly close the person if you kind of sense there's some pushback or resistance. But check on is a way to apply, but not necessarily feel as the prospect that you're buying or spending money today. So it might be an easier way to get some kind of agreement to move forward.
The 4,000.
The 4,000? All right. Let's go ahead and check and see.
Perfect. So in this case, it was seamless. The client chose the one that was best suited for their budget, and that ended up being the 4,000. One thing you didn't hear here is we typically give a budget range that the client is comfortable with, and the client gives us confirmation that they are. So in this case, it might have been $40, $50, $60 a month exactly. I don't exactly remember what the prices were, but those prices that Marcus gave the client were within that range so that the client couldn't object to the price because he gave us those price ranges. So we were confident in the delivery of the options because we knew the client could afford them. Now let's move to the last one here. One more closing call. So let's listen.
You decide before the issue date of the policy, if you decide you want to increase it to the 14, 17, or even like higher than that, we can always make that adjustment for you. If you need to adjust it down, we can do that as well. That's not a problem. But yeah, you definitely don't have to pay for it right away. So that is perfectly okay. What I do for pretty much all my...
So one of the great things here, what Juan is doing, is he's giving options to the client to make them feel better about committing. For example, he's offering a 10, but he's telling the client as a way to get them to commit today with all the information, banking information, Social Security, going through approval, saying that you can up it to the 14 or 17 if that's what you ultimately decide. So if somebody's kind of like, I don't know, I really want the 14, but I got to check my budget. So let's just do the 10,000. Let's get you started there. You got about a week or two before you can make your final decision. And then the other thing that's very helpful is by saying you don't have to pay today. All we need to do is just get you approved, see which ones you qualify for, and then it'll take care of sometime next month on the date of your choice. So by emphasizing that they don't have to pay today, this helps get some deals through that might be murky or questionable because the person's broke at the time and they think they got to pay it today like everything else they do. Now, with that said, one of the things I like to do in the close is to take the money up front if at all possible. You should try and encourage the person to pay today because that puts their policy in force. They're fully covered from the first payment, assuming they're approved. But if you have to defer payment, then they're not fully covered until the first premium payment is transacted. So always try to collect up front. That's going to lead to better persistency, better quality of business. But if you can't, definitely go the old buy now, pay later route in order to get something done and then to defer the payment later to make it easier for the client.
My clients, 90% of people usually want to push that out until their next Social Security benefit schedule.
Right.
So we can do that for you. They'll let you push it out all the way until March. So if you need to do that, we can do that for you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Just for now, just to get the approval process rolling, would you like to just start at the $10,000 level?
I want to wait until at least toward the end of February, or before the end of February, actually.
You want to wait until then to pay for it?
Yep.
That's fine. We can push it out until then. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so one of the things here, you never want to hang up the phone because the phone, once it's hung up, it's over. So in these instances, I'm not sure when exactly the sale was done. Let me see if I can check here real quick. I don't have a date on it, unfortunately, but if this was in December and they wanted to wait 2 months, that might be a problem. But the point I'm trying to tell you is some people try to push off the decision making. Call me back, in other words, at a later date. Never do that. You're going to have to think on the fly about how to make a deal fly today to do something to put it in force. So some options here are how can you set up the premium earlier? Maybe how can you set up a lesser premium to get started with and then increase the coverage later? These are some ideas that are just kind of formulating in my head if in fact it's several months into the future before the premium is withdrawn, because most insurance companies don't allow it. It's within the next 45 days or so.
Well, what I'm saying to you is I want you to call me somewhere around the 25th, 26th of February, and we'll do it then.
So the response to this, in my opinion, say, I understand what you're saying, but here's the thing. We're going to do this today because you know you need it. You've expressed how important it is to get it. You're worried about your wife not having coverage. I know you've been thinking about this a long time. Let's just take care of it today. We can even do it at a lesser amount if you're concerned about the price. You want to do the 10,000, you want to start at 5. So my point here, guys, is this is a way that somebody's a little bit more passive to get off the hook of saying no. Just call me sometime in the future. You know they're not going to pick up. So don't let them say that that's acceptable. You got to keep them on the phone. You got to close them regardless.
Yeah, I usually always call my clients before the start date of their policies to make sure that they're still good to start it. And if you're not, then we pull the application. Yeah, that's not a problem. We can do that for you too. I'll give you a courtesy call. I'll double remind myself to give you that courtesy call. The most important thing is making sure you can be approved for it, because if not, I mean, no offense, we'd both be wasting our time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like to do that. So I want to respect your time and also mine. So The application is really simple.
So perfect. So rebuttal is great. It's like, hey, I can give you a courteous call, no problem. I'll do that anyway. But here's the thing. You got to get approved. We don't know if you can qualify for it, and I don't want to waste your time or mine either. So the application is easy, et cetera. It's smooth. Like he's just talking back on script to get them going. And then again, guys, that is what you have to do. When they give you pushback like this, you just have to answer it, be frank and to the point, and then get back on script and assume the close. You don't have to necessarily hear them say, yes, I want to do this, and okay, that sounds good. Just assume that they agree with you. Assumption equals confidence in the sales game. And if you're not an assumptive person like I'm not, I've had to work myself into being that person. It's going to take some time and practice to get comfortable with it. So in short, what are the takeaways from closing? My advice is selling any kind of insurance product, have a limitation of options. Keep it simple. 3 options is great. 2 options is great too. Maybe even just saying 1 option is a good thing too. It just depends on what you're selling. In the final expense space and what we operate in, 3 is our primary approach. The other side of this is to always get the premium ahead of schedule. So I like to qualify earlier on in the sales process and get a budget range that they're comfortable with. Script sounds something like this. Mr. Prospect, if I can qualify you for a program today, can you afford somewhere between $80 and $100 a month? Now that range of price may be higher, maybe lower, depending on the circumstances and other things we discover in the script. But I want them to agree to a budget range. If you've ever sold cars, you know you don't ever sell by MSRP. You sell on the monthly premium or the monthly allotment on the car note that is comfortable to the client. Likewise, we do that with insurance sales too. The close is simple. Which one of these options do you want to get started with today? Or a softer close if you feel like you need it is which one do you want to see if we can qualify it for? And then at the end, if any kind of objection rebuttal that you get, like, let me think about it, let me talk to my wife and kids, I recommend addressing it, telling them you understand where they're coming from, but here's why we need to do it anyway, and then close. So an example of that would be if somebody says, let me think about it, what I would say is, hey, totally understand why you're saying that, but let's be honest. You've been thinking about this a long time. You've told me that your wife died a year ago and that there was no coverage. I know you've been thinking about it ever since that happened. You need to take care of this. You and I both know this. You want your daughter to have peace of mind. So let's do the right thing. Take care of this today. Who do you want your beneficiary to be? Or wherever you are, then you ask the question to then close the deal. Don't ever hang up the phone on the first call. There may be some sales products out there that are multi-step closes, but in the life insurance space, most of what we're selling, especially final expense, is a one-call close. And anytime you hang up the phone, it's over. You're never going to talk to them again. They disappear into the witness protection program. So keep them on the phone. Compromise on a way to make it work, whether it's a better price, lower coverage at a better price, doing my little bit there I described and getting them to just overcome their hesitancy by reminding them of what they said was important with buying in the first place. And if you do this combination of opening strong and the reasons why we described earlier with closing strong, you're going to optimize your sales. And one last thing I'll say just as a general piece of advice. In my agency, the Dig Agency, these are the 2 things that we care about the most. The third one being how much time you actually on the phone. And what we have found is the biggest thing that's going to move the lever to your success is not the close, it's the opening. If you can get good at the opening and getting better at keeping more of the people that actually pick up the phone on the phone, chances are you're going to sell a higher percentage overall and close more of those policies or those prospects in the policies. Closing is very important. You cannot give up too soon. You cannot be coy when you get resistance. That is expected with most Americans that you're dealing with. They're not going to be sure, but your job is to make them sure. It is to show confidence and exuberance in what you're doing. So always be closing. Be the confident person. Be the adult in the room to guide them to the right decision, assuming it is the right decision. Don't con them or anything, of course. And really focus on the opening. It's kind of the 2 things. Of course, be on the phone as much as possible as well. And if you work on this continuously, always trying to get better, you're going to find that as you level up those, your sales are going to go through the roof. So I hope you enjoyed this sales training and hearing what it's like from real life top producers selling successfully and getting some advice and tidbits on what you can do to improve. If you're looking for an agency to join, you love this kind of training, it's what we do at the Dig Agency. You can go to daviddufour.com. Link is in the description below. We recruit agents nationally to sell final expense remotely from home using our free lead system. It's an excellent place to start and to do this business without the huge risk that so many agents make, spending untold amounts of money where you don't have to do that to nearly the same extent to be successful and work with us. DavidDufour.com for more information. Thanks for watching.